Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we're going to do another kind of special Should You Pull. We're actually going to talk about 3 banners. So first up, we've got a mystery banner, or like a very much a surprise banner. And shout out to Blind Eye in my Discord for sharing the screenshot with me. So somebody had mentioned in the comments of one of my videos, because in one of my videos, after we found out we were getting like the Machina banner, I said, oh yeah, I think according to the Dare to Defy schedule, we should have another like campaign banner, and it's actually coming up next. And I thought it was going to be Beatrix and Celis, because in the JP timeline, that's the other campaign that was around this time. But kind of out of nowhere, we're getting a Seymour and Rydia banner. And somebody made a comment in that video and said, well, it was data mined we're getting Rydia and Seymour. Well, I'm someone that I don't like make a video on it or like say it's true unless I see like real evidence. And so Blind Eye was nice enough to share a screenshot from the data mine. So sure, this to me is legitimate evidence. Seymour banner is coming. It even has the date that it lasts until June 6th. So the banner that we just got lasts until June 2nd. So that tells me that this banner is 4 days after the current one. So basically like 3 days after you're seeing this video, this banner should be dropping with a new Dare to Defy. Blind Eye also told me it was going to be the Dimensions End Tier 12 boss revamp. So could be very challenging. So we'll kind of look at that as we get into that as well. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about this banner. And then we are going to talk about the Edgar Lunafreya banners. I figured let's just lump it all into one video, because Edgar and Lunafreya is the next set of banners that we do know is coming, that we did know from the community stream slides, right? But this banner is actually coming first. Now, should you pull on this banner? Now, because this is like kind of an unannounced thing, not in the community stream, we don't really have anything from the JP timeline history. Like, I looked all over the timeline. I did not see these characters anywhere. So technically, maybe they give them like an early echo or something, but I'm going to assume that these are straight reruns. And the Machina banner was the same way. Those characters were straight reruns. So I'm sure this banner is going to operate the same. So we're going into this assuming that these characters are not getting surprise reworks or upgrades or anything like that. And as we just saw very recently in one of my videos, Rydia can still cook. She's a very, very good character, right? So let's talk about the characters, and I'll talk about if you should pull on this banner. So let's start with Rydia. You guys, if you watched my Dare to Defy Stage 4 run, I did feature Rydia on that fight, and she did very, very well there. Rydia is actually a very, very nice character to have in this game. She's a character that is a water damage dealer, but she enables the entire party to dodge through her LD. Now, it's kind of an odd type of buff, where it's not a buff that has a timer that runs out. She basically gives the party a buff that stacks up to 3, and it starts at 3 stacks, and anytime a party member dodges, and it's 100% evasion, and anytime a party member dodges, it goes down a stack. So essentially her buff, there's no turn duration on it, but it just allows each party member to dodge 3 times, and then it falls off. So it is very nice. What I think is Rydia's best asset, though, is her FR. Her FR is quite good, because it is an off-turn FR. Basically, whenever any party member dodges an attack, once per turn, you get 50%. 50% is a lot when you're getting it off turn and you're doing an aggressive fight. So we saw that when I did my Dare to Defy 4 run. The enemies would attack a bunch and getting 50% a tick. You get up to 999% quite easily, right? So Rydia is a very good character. I actually think, in my opinion, Rydia is the better character on the banner, to be honest. Even though Seymour has a BT, I actually like Rydia better as a character. I think Rydia is a character you're going to use a lot more. And as we saw in the very recent, very difficult Shinryu fight, she has a lot of longevity, because she's, I'm using her without any echo, without any rework, anything like that. And she did very, very well in that fight, right? Now, Seymour, on the other hand, I don't like nearly as much. It's not that Seymour is bad. He is like a magic damage dealer. The big flaw with his kit is that it's kind of wonky. He's actually like very weak at the beginning of a fight, and he's a character that gets stronger as the enemies get weaker. And basically, Seymour doesn't look his best until the enemies are below 50% health. When the enemies are below 50% health, Seymour can cook. He can put in a lot of damage. He's very good. But would you want to pull a character like Seymour who's only good for half the fight? Or just get Tifa or Core or other characters that are just good the whole fight, right? So it's not that Seymour is bad, it's just that he's not good for the entire fight. And I would rather, if I'm going to invest resources and materials, I want a character that's good the moment they step on the screen. I don't want, this isn't Dokkan battle. We don't want characters that build up over time, right? We want our characters to be good immediately. DFFOO isn't built like Dokkan, where like Dokkan, they do long events and characters build up whatever. Sure, Seymour is a good Dokkan character, but in DFFOO, we just want our characters to come in and do what they're going to do, and we don't want to have to putz around with that, right? So I actually am really not a Seymour fan. I wouldn't recommend him at all unless he's like a favorite of yours. Now, I know there are Seymour fans out there that use this guy and they use him well and they love him. That's fantastic. Go ahead and use Seymour. He's great. But when I do my should you poll, I'm looking at like the average player, players with low resources. I really can't recommend it. Overall, I would say the banner probably is a skip. Even though I really like Rydia and I think she's very good, especially for like an FR only character not getting a rework, she's one of the better ones you could pick up. Now, if you have resources and you want to have her in your box, trust me, I've got a couple of videos on Rydia where she does some crazy things. She can be a very good character to have. So Rydia is not bad by any means. A really excellent pickup, but we've seen how packed this month is. You guys are seeing how like my resources are hurting. A lot of players out there, resources are hurting. So if you're in that situation, I think you just flat out skip this. These campaign banners too, where you're not getting like reworks or echoes, that's another reason just not to summon, because these are older characters. And so even though like a character like Rydia can still do good, like you'd rather, like if you're using resources right now, you want a character that's current, like right now good, right? Like that's got all the echo and all the fancy stuff. So yeah, I would say probably hold off on this banner, to be honest, but I do like Rydia. She is a very good character, right? All right, let's hop into game. We'll look at the other characters here. Sorry for the little switcheroo there, but yeah, we'll hop in. So I've got these other banners set up. So one banner here is going to be Lunafreya, Sid, Highwind, and Waka. So one thing I will say now, in contrast to the Noctis banner, the side characters here aren't nearly as strong, so we'll just start with that. Waka's solid. He's okay. The thing that a lot of people don't like about Waka, he's like really good, but he's got RNG to his kit. So he's got like very powerful debuffs, but it's kind of random which one you're going to get. The positive side of it is all three of the debuffs are very good, but the thing is like sometimes you want to plan for a certain debuff, right? And one of his is like a really good confuse. And it's like, dude, if you're banking on that confuse, like you need it, like, and you can't guarantee it, it's kind of frustrating, right? So his debuffs are all very good. He's an interesting character. Waka's just a character where it's like, he's not bad, but with like the RNG, it's like when you ever say like, I want to put Waka in my slot, I want Waka as my slot 3 character, or I want Waka as my support, like you never find yourself like wanting Waka is like a legitimate member of your team. He's not a character that is going to be ever your first choice. Waka, I think, is strictly like a for fun character, and if you're a fan of 10 and you like Waka, you definitely can use him well, but as an RNG-based character, I'm just not a fan, to be honest, right? And once again, he's LD only. So if you're LD only, like, you have got to be stellar. You have got to be doing something crazy, and he's not doing enough as an LD only character that I would say jump in. He's not like, say, Galuf, who, like, we also saw do crazy things in that Rydia video, who is like doing a very difficult modern Shinryu and holding his own weight with other FR Echo characters as an LD only character. That's the type of LD only character you want. Probably not Waka. Sid, kind of same thing. He's like a wind damage dealer. He does have some off turn. He's really known for doing dispelling. He's got a little bit of off turn damage, but that's kind of about it. And as an LD only damage dealer, he just doesn't have a lot of value right now. Eventually, he'll get upgrades and he'll look a lot better in the future, but his main draw was that he's the Dispeller. Well, now we've got like Baltier and Pain, who are just like miles and leagues better. He's not a character you need to jump in and try and get either, so don't worry about getting Sid. Then we have Lunafreya. Now, I would say we're at the point in the game's history. Lunafreya, for those of you unfamiliar, has been known at several points in the game as literally not just the best support character in the game, but maybe the best character in the game, period, right? That being said, I would say right now we're at the point in the game where I felt Lunafreya is kind of like the lowest I've ever put her on a tier list. Not saying she's bad, she's still ridiculously good, but the game has gotten to the point where not only am I not using Lunafreya Call anymore, I haven't really been using her in my parties, right? So she's fallen off a little bit, and I don't think it's because her kit is bad. I think part of it is the nature of how like your force setup has changed. That has impacted her usefulness a lot. So Echo has played a big role in her not being as usable as I would like. And then the other thing is just like power creep of other support characters. Those are the two things that I think I put Lunafreya down a little bit. So if you're unfamiliar, Lunafreya is a very good force charging character, very strong burst healing, two extremely powerful buffs. She has the Quick Prayer and Heavy Prayer. What Quick Prayer does is it basically gives any party member with Quick Prayer multiple free turns in a row, which that would used to be key for setting up like for your force times. And then Heavy Prayer, which just gives the character like really good true HP damage added onto all their attacks. Very, very good buffs, both of them, right? And Lunafreya is like Pain, where her position in the party actually matters. So the way it works, and actually I can show you right now really quick on my screen. If she's in the middle, the way it works is the character to her right, so Sid, would get Quick Prayer. Characters to the left would get Heavy Prayer. So if I popped her LD, Sid would get a couple turns in a row. Waka would get more true HP damage. If you put Lunafreya in the top slot, they both get Heavy Prayer. If you put her in the bottom slot, they both get Quick Prayer. The nice thing is she has ways to manually apply Quick Prayer and Heavy Prayer to characters, no matter where she is. So I usually play Lunafreya in my top slot because I like Heavy Prayer better to get the HP damage. And then I would manually put like Quick Prayer on my BT character, let them set up and go into BT, right? That's kind of how I use Lunafreya. So you might be saying, well, all that sounds really good. Why would Lunafreya not be as, desirable right now? Well, she doesn't have Echo, so that's a downfall. But like we've seen, there's plenty of non-Echo characters that have done just fine. So I don't think that's the end of the world. But a lot of her value was quick praying for BT setup, because the way you would want to do it for Force is we didn't have Echo, and you would say we could use Tifa as an example. We would want Tifa to maybe be able to hit her BT effect, then hit Force, or hit Force and then BT effect, whatever you want to do, and then be able to go into burst phase kind of uninterrupted without other characters taking turns. Because the way it used to be is you did not want other characters taking turns, because you want your main Force BT damage dealer to set up, do their own burst phase, and get the max damage out, because they're the ones that are operating their Force time. Well, now with Echo, it's a more passive approach. You want to hit a Force and then Echo with other characters, let them take turns. You can kind of have more control over when your Force gauge goes down, and then you can kind of manipulate it easier to actually build the gauge up a lot more, get your Force gauge down to 8, 7, or 6, kind of whatever you want, then go into your burst phase, and you can do all that without the quick prayer. Now, the heavy prayer is still really good, right? Like giving true HP damage to your characters, ridiculously good, right? Definitely love it. So Lunafreya is still a fantastic character. And if we're talking like non-Echo Force BT characters, like she's still one of the best support units in the game. So should you summon here? I would say this. I mean, she's a ridiculously good character to have in your box. But this is the one time I think in the game's history that I would say she actually isn't like a must-have right now. So I would say if you have the resources, I do think you should get her, because she is so good. And you can use her. She's a character that's so flexible, has really good longevity, right? She's coming back here with like literally no upgrades, like nothing. And she's still a very good character, right? Once again, I'm not at any point saying she's bad. She's still fantastic. It's just there's been a slight meta shift, and there's been power creep on the support side, right? Like other characters like Aerith, like if I could choose Lunafreya or Aerith, I'm going to choose Aerith every single time, right? That's just how it's going to be. But having many support units in your box for lockout is good. Lunafreya will get Echo in the future, and she's going to be like ridiculous again at that point. So I can't blame y'all if you want to get her. She is so good. But I would say all I'm saying is I'm not like saying like don't summon. I guess the way I'm going to word this is if you're tight on resources, this is skippable. That's the way I'm going to word it. But if you have resources, Lunafreya is definitely great to pick up. Like you can't go wrong there. Then we've got the Edgar banner, and I'm just going to say this. The Edgar banner is like very weak. This is a 100% skip. I'll just say it right now. I'll talk about the characters, but there's really no reason to pull here. Unless you are like a uber mega Final Fantasy VI fan like me and you want all the Final Fantasy VI characters, there's no reason to go here. So first up, we've got, Deuce. Deuce, here's the thing. The future is good for Deuce, but she's a character who, like, every time she gets upgraded, she's just not that great. She's really like a big time battery character, and she kind of specializes in like supporting magic damage dealers and increasing their damage, right? So as a support character, she's solid. She's just never been like that amazing, but she did get FRBT on JP, and I was really liking what I was seeing out of her. She was getting some very powerful, like, extra follow-up damage. So I think she has a bright future, but right now, you're just not going to use her. I'll just say that straight out. Just, you're not going to use Deuce. So don't pull for her. Kamari, he's another character that he never gets, like, praise as being one of the best characters in the game. But I think Kamari is a cool character. But once again, as an LD-only character, man, you better be doing something amazing. And, if I'm looking at the side characters, I do think Kamari is actually the strongest. If I'm looking at, Sid Highwind, I'm looking at Waka, and I'm looking at Kamari and Deuce, I think if I could pick one of the four, Kamari is the strongest one here. But he's still not like a premium character. You can be like, yeah, I want to put him on a team right now, especially when you're competing with Echo. Kamari he's very unique in that he's a combination of like a very potent debuffer and also a very potent like support buffer, right? So he can do a lot of interesting things, a lot of brave gain, a lot of healing. He has some very notable debuffs in that he has a fairly decent HP poison. But the big thing with Kamari, I think his biggest asset is his blind debuff, because he has a blind debuff that is a 100% blind, which is very good. Now, you can kind of treat that as like an HP silence or paralyze, and there's a lot of characters that can do that type of thing that have stronger kits. So once again, even though Kamari can do some cool things, like he's not going to have a lot of damage right now, and he's basically just going to enable that blind. He can work really interesting with like a Rydia comp or something to help allies dodge more, but like, yeah, I don't think you need to go in on Kamari here either. And then Edgar, being like the new fancy, BTFR character, like he's going to be solid. He's very unique in that he has his kit is full of different weapon types, right? He's got magic, ranged, and melee like all over his kit. And he has a very unique debuff that allows enemies to be imperiled for weapon types. That's a lot less common than, say, elemental imperils, right? Like a lot of characters will do elemental imperils. But what Edgar does is he actually imperils for ranged, magic, and melee, right? Sounds really cool, but I could just bring a magic imperiler and do the same thing, right? So, like, it's not really that, like, so his big unique thing is just being able to deal weakness damage, which so many characters can enable, right? Now, I don't know what his fight is. My guess is his fight is going to be like super mega elemental lockout, and you're going to need to do weakness damage to probably like stop the force. And it's going to be hard to get because you're going to need weapon type imperils, which is what he specializes in. I mean, I'm not a dev, but if I was a dev, that's the way I would build his fight. A ton of elemental lockouts so you can't cheese it with weakness damage that way, and force the player to do weapon weakness damage or weakness damage in some other way that's less common, because that's what Edgar's going to do. Now, if you all have done the JP fight, you can let me know if I'm right or wrong on that, but that's what I'm predicting as a player who's never looked at his fight. They're probably going to want you to do weapon type weakness damage and kind of force it on you with an elemental lockout. That's my guess. Other than that, like his BT will give him some strong follow-ups. I feel like that's kind of like the de facto go-to, like to upgrade a character. It's like, yep, let's give them follow-ups on their BT and call it good, right? Balthier gets follow-ups on his BT. Like all these characters just get follow-ups on their BT now. So yeah, that's kind of what Edgar's got going on, but he's not meta-defining, dude. And like I said earlier, we are in a month that is just like a lot of good characters. A lot of people are short on resources right now. I really think there really isn't a place to pull here unless Edgar is an absolute favorite of yours. And he's a favorite of mine, and I'm not going to be able to pull here, I don't think so. If I magically have tickets at this time, maybe I'll try to get his FR, but there's no way I would like gem the BT or anything like that. So I would say if you're going to pull on a banner, you're probably going to pull for Lunafreya. Lunafreya is the strongest character, I believe, out of the 6. I would definitely say that right now. I would say even going to the Seymour Rydia banner, Lunafreya is probably the strongest character out of all of them, I would say. So she would be, if you're going to summon on any of this, that's the one you'd gun for. But otherwise, I would say these are all 3 probably quite skippable. Save your resources. We've got some big things coming. We got a community stream coming up. We're getting to the end of the month, so keep an eye out on that. So anyways, guys, let me know if you're going to pull or not. Let me know what you think of these characters. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.